Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and today is July 10th, 2020, and this is our weekly video. We're going to take a look today and see what went on over on eBay last week, what's been added to the global member pages this week. We've added a bunch of new catalogs in the last few days, sort of getting back into the swing of things after our little break away from things. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July. It was funny. We didn't have town fireworks here, but it seems to me about 2/3 of the city of Gloucester went up to New Hampshire and came back with fireworks because on the 4th, I never saw so many fireworks going off in our neighborhood. A record this year. It was amazing. It was crazy. Out over the ocean, in people's yards, everywhere. It was a lot of fun. But here we are. And a couple of things I wanted to go over, things that have gone on with the site this week. And just so everybody knows, we are working on a new project, and we'll talk more about it in the future. And I hope a lot of you like it. It has to do with some selling options. We're considering setting up a sister site to this one and allowing people to create their own accounts, upload images, sell their own stuff, get treated like adults if they want to be dealers, and doing perhaps we're going to allow fixed price things and auction items. And we have sort of a strategy how we're going to get into that. And as things develop, I'll let you all know. But I'm one of those people, like many of you, are a little tired of how some of the auction platforms, how eBay treats some of their sellers and they treat some of their buyers. And there's a lot of imperfections that we're all aware of. And I'm thinking maybe we can help try and correct some of those if there's interest. If there's no interest, then the heck with it. But if there's interest, it's something we're willing to do and invest the time and money and to develop it. So, at any rate, that's what's going on. All right, now over on the homepage this week, if you come over and you check the catalogs. In this section here, free catalogs and books, we've added some pretty neat catalogs, and they're all across the top row here. All right, and down onto the second row, we've added this catalog here. If you're a Japanese ceramics collector, and you've been at it for any length of time, you may remember the Tanakamura collection that was exhibited back in the late 70s. It was a 1979 to 1980 exhibition. It was they did this great catalog, and we've gotten a copy of it, and we've uploaded it onto the site. There's a lot of information in here about all the different areas of collecting, tea bowls, and all the usual stuff. And this was when Mr. Montebello was running the Met, who was a big fan of Asian art, and he did a lot to help build up that section of the museum's holdings. And this was just one more thing. He had, they later put in the Chinese gardens and did all kinds of things. But anyway, it's a nifty catalog. And we came across some files that we could work with from a very famous French Chinese bronze dealer, metals mostly. His name is Christian Deydier, and it's a legendary gallery, and he has some great catalogs up online, and we've uploaded them to the site. If you're interested in early Chinese bronzes, Christian is one of the most knowledgeable people in the world on this topic, and he writes about the history of it and the forming of bronzes and so forth. This is just one of them. This is the Erlitou culture in Jade Dynasty, which is when the first Chinese bronzes were made, and he's got some great examples in here that you can go through, and you're going to see some forms you probably have never seen before. They're similar to later bronzes, but quite unusual bronzes that look like this, and a very unusual form and shape to many of you. It later, of course, turned into the libation cup, the offering cup, but at any rate, this was the original form of it. And there's a whole section in here on inlaid bronzes and all that good stuff. And then over here, Understanding Ancient Chinese Bronzes. This is a really nice book, and you can browse through it. And what was interesting in here was that I found out, that looking through this, that the former president of France, Jacques Chirac, was a Chinese bronze collector, which I didn't know. I was flipping through it, and there he is, and he's holding one of his own bronzes. And it's a good book. It's well written. Christian doesn't speak a lot of English, but he had some very good English translators work with him on all of these catalogs. So they're beautifully done. And if you want to get the Chinese version, I believe he has a version in Chinese or French on his site as well. These are the English ones. Otto Lippen's collection of ancient Chinese bronzes was an exhibition and sale he did. And then where's the next one? No, not that one. That's been added to this week. This one. This is a great. This is Chinese bronzes from the Mayan Tang collection. It's a 2-volume set, volume 1 and volume 2. And what's really wonderful about it is that, in particular, in volume 2, if you go into it, there's a whole section in there on Chinese fakes, bronze fakes, and how they were made, what the lengths they went to when they were made, how they were made, and when a lot of them were made. And a lot of them were made a long time ago, and how they patinated them and how they were cast. And there's a nice several pages in here on it, and techniques used in producing Chinese bronze fakes, how they patinated them, use of acids. Sometimes they buried some of these things for 20 or 30 years long ago to make them look much older. Quite interesting. And the other thing that he's included in this too is if you're ever looking at bronze shapes and you want to know what the name of the shape is, here it is. He's got them all broken down, nice and easy to look at. There are other books out there that have these in it, but this one looks particularly useful. The shapes and forms, and then he goes through and explains all of their histories, and what the bronze was for, what the ritual use of it was, and so forth. And he goes through it page by page, so you can look up bronzes, bronze shapes, and really get into it. These books are a fountain of information, really are. I strongly recommend taking the time to read them. If you're on a flight or something, going somewhere, pull these up and read them. As you know, you double click on it on any page you want to read, and it creates this bar at the top, and you simply click this, and it pulls it in, nice and readable. There you go. And it doesn't get foggy or fuzzy when you enlarge, because they created these in very high definition. So it's quite good. The other thing I wanted to mention was that Jim Lally, Ancient Chinese Jade Catalog, this was an exhibition he did. It was a couple of years ago, and we didn't have the file. We came across the file, and we posted that this week. If you're into early jades, this was a great show he did in 2018. If you're ever in New York and Lally's is open, go in and meet him. He's a former Massachusetts guy. I've talked to him a couple times. I don't know him well, but everybody seems to like him. He was the former one of the big dogs at Sotheby's many years ago in Hong Kong, and interesting man. And we've featured his lectures on the newsletter page a number of times. We've some of his lectures that he's given. He is a terrific public speaker. All right, and the other thing that we added this week was the Bottoms catalog this is over down in New York. It's coming up on July 21st. It's a good sale, and all of the stuff are over on the member pages, on the global member pages. Some very nice Chinese export paintings, some terrific ones actually, some good robes, all the usual stuff, some very nice brush pots, carved corals, and so forth. So if you want to go through there, as I said, they're over on the pages, okay? And I think that about covers the updates to the pages. All righty, and then over to close this up. There we go. Over on the global member pages, some things that have come up this week. John's has just posted their sale. Their catalog is not online yet, but their images are, and we've updated them onto the invaluable pages over on the global member pages. Some very, very good things. If you scroll down, you'll get down there. Let's see here. The Bottoms is on there as well. And John is toward the bottom somewhere. Let's see here. The other sale that's coming up is Marquis de Santos has got a nice sale coming up over in Europe as well, and Roseberries has a sale. This is just some of the stuff. This is just on the invaluable page. I'm trying to find where I put the Bonham stuff. Rasamento, there's a bunch of good things there. Here's the Tijan sale. Here's all the Tijan material. There's quite a bit. They have some good bronzes. They've got some very nice porcelain. Lots of good Tibetan bronzes in Paris. So it's a good place to buy them. And it's a nice looking sale. And we're going to go through a couple of the pieces that I saw that I thought were particularly interesting. One of them was this. This is in the Tijan sale, and it's an incense burner, but it's got the scrifato ground on it, and nicely done with famille rose enamels. And I have to say, I don't remember ever seeing this form with these colors before. Very unusual. It's a 19th century example, but beautifully done. Unfortunately, it doesn't enlarge. Maybe you have to go over to John's website to see it. But that's a really interesting incense burner. It's done on the early 18th century form, but all in famille rose, and it has the dream sphere coming up out of the incense burner and the precious objects. I love the expression on the food line. It looks like he's gasping with joy at this incense burner. Interesting stuff. And the estimate seems reasonable, 800 to 1,200 euros. I think it'll easily get there, I would think. And also this very elegant pair of Kangxi Femivair with deep cobalt blue rims on them. Nice looking plates. Looks like one of them might have a little repair up there, so if you're interested, make sure you get a condition report. And then on to this. This is Roseberry's has this. If you're a Japanese Amari collector, I have a number of them that I talk to regularly that use the site. You want to check this jar out. This is a big boy. It's 57 centimeters tall, so it's almost 2 feet tall. Nice big 18th century. They have it 17th century. I don't know. I think that's a little optimistic, but 18th century anyway. Amari jar. Beautifully done, and this is over in the UK, so you want to check that out. And then Bonham's has this. This, I think, is a very reasonably estimated jar, unless there's something wrong with it. Tang Dynasty white ovoid jar. These are classic form, classic shape. It is about 10 inches, just a hair under 10 inches tall. Nice white glazed Tang Dynasty pot with a $4,000 to $6,000 estimate. This is in New York. That sounds very reasonable. I'm not quite sure why the price is that low, unless there's a bad spot in the glaze or something. I think that's a relative bargain. And also at Bonham's in New York are some of the Chinese export paintings like this one. This is a beautiful example, circa 1810 to 1830, somewhere in there. Nicely done, $4,000 to $6,000 estimate, very reasonable. That's a perfectly reasonable estimate. And this is something, I believe this is at, is this Roseberry's? I want to double check so I don't send you to the wrong place. Is this Roseberry's? No, Marquis de Santos, excuse me. It's this very interesting transitional period double gourd with a very modest estimate, 4,000 to 6,000 euros, I believe it is. This is a very good example. And with these figures and this pattern, if this vase is okay and not damaged, it's worth about 2 to 3 times that, the estimate. It's estimated at 5,000 to 7,000 euros, which is very much on the low side. It has a 3,500 euro opening bid, and it is a nice size. It's over a foot tall. It's about 14 inches tall, so it's sort of on the biggish size for one of these. So you might want to check that out if you're a transitional buyer. And the other one is this Kangxi period classical fruit pattern center with a very narrow rim, nice white paste, purely Kangxi. It's about 37 centimeters. It's a charger. It's good size, so it's about 15 inches in diameter, beautifully done. And this is also at Dos Santos, Los Marquis dos Santos, in Portugal. Estimate 1,800 to 2,400, and I think that's reasonable. Get a condition report, check it for restorations, because often this particular plate in this shape with that curved cavetto, they tend to crack. All right, and just make sure it hasn't been no cracks have been infilled or messed with. But nice big, beautifully painted charger. And then over to this I believe are at Freeman's, a nice big pair of 18th century Chinese export garniture vases. The pattern is a stock pattern that you've all seen before, but this looks like a nice, elegant pair. And the examples that have these elongated chimera handles tend to be more desirable than the shorter ones. Want to check and make sure that they have not been reattached, because they're very easy to knock off. As always, get a condition report. And but the modest estimate, $4,000 to $6,000, $2,000 opening bid, and I think that's quite reasonable. These typically sell for well within that range and higher at times if the enameling is still in very good condition. All right, and then over here to last week's. That's all the stuff that's on the member pages, on the paid member pages this week. There's a lot more stuff on there. That's just some of it. We have the Sotheby's sale up there now. The Christie sales are on there. The catalogs, of course, are all loaded and invaluable. And live auctioneers have a lot of other content. And we just updated it today, as a matter of fact. We've updated it, I think, 4 times this week because it got very low number of stuff that was online because so many things closed last week. And this week, as I thought would happen, a lot of auctioneers began populating back onto the site with new listings. All right. Now, on to results from last week over on CataWiki was this. This is one of those inscribed Famille Rose vases, or this was a snuff bottle, beautifully done. I talked about it last week. It's a Wu Shuang Pu example with the inscriptions. Get one of the inscription sides. There it is. And I thought this was just an absolutely unusual form, and I thought it would do better than it did. This really surprised me. It went for just 240 euros. This is a very unusual form, and whoever bought it, good on you, because try to find another one, all right? You won't see another one of these in a snuff bottle form anytime soon, for a long time. These are very unusual, and has this nice European silver mount that was added to it, and I think 240 euros was a great buy. Great buy. All right, now on to this. There was this very nice Kangxi lotus form bowl. It's that molded form, you know, with the lines shaped like floral petals, and then they interfill them with fish and flowers and so forth. This was a nice example. It wasn't a huge one, about 4 inches in diameter, and it went for $421. Mostly because it was so nicely painted. The painting on this was quite nice, and it had the sort of standard loopy flower rosette on the bottom. Good looking thing. Any rate, 421 euros. Perfectly good. Nice sale. And then over here to this tortoise shell, they call it faux tortoise shell. It looks like a real tortoise shell to me, but they may have just said that because it's on eBay. Gilded Chinese export fan. Very pretty example. It looked to be it was in very nice condition. I don't know as it had its box or not. That often people want the boxes, but a beautiful example, nicely done, mid-19th century, and sold for $427, which I think was a pretty reasonable buy. This came from a seller over in Spain who handles a lot of fans, not only Chinese fans, but European fans as well. And that was a nice one. I think that was a rather nice buy, given what these have sold for recently. And then on to this, you have this very nice Qinlong sort of tobacco leafy type plate, simply painted, not a lot of elegant, elaborate detail. It's fairly elegant though, nice gilding on it. And this went for just $200. That was a pretty good buy, I think. It was in nice condition. This was sold by Philip Coven over in Belgium. Nice example though, nice looking plate. And then on to this. This was one of the relative buys of the week. It was this very nice early Qinlong period Famille Rose, possibly late Yongchen period dish. All it had going on with it apparently was a hairline, according to the seller, and it went for just $45. This was about a 9-inch dish. That was a good buy. That was a good buy. The shipping was actually $59, so the shipping was more than the plate. All right, and then on to this. This was a very unusual vase. This is one of these Chinese export garniture vases that you've all seen before, with the blue and white stipple ground and the cartouches and so forth. Pretty typical looking foot rim on it. What was unusual about it was it has a depiction, a highly unusual depiction of an elderly woman being nursed by a younger one being fed. And the story is that this was done to help elderly people who could no longer chew and digest food properly, and they sometimes would revert basically to using a wet nurse to help maintain their health and keep them alive, because they wanted to keep them with them, of course, as long as they could. And the scene is interesting because the elderly person is sitting in this beautiful rootwood chair, lots of decorative objects and motifs running around all over the place, the children going about their day, attending to the grandmother, and it sold for $2,225, which was a pretty good price for that. But the pattern on it, that's a rather unusual pattern, very unusual. And then on to this, the double pair of slab-constructed Famille Rose vases, 19th century, sort of done in the Straits tradition, Straits porcelain coloring, but a lovely big pair of vases. And I think, as I recall, they were about 17 inches tall or something like that. I looked at them last week. Hold on a second here. Do they put I hate it when they put the dimensions inside the listing here. I'm pretty sure they were 17 inches tall. At any rate, they sold for $1,763, which I think was a good buy. Those were a nice looking pair of vases. They were very, very pretty, and precious objects and all that. Very good looking. And then onto this, this is a piece of chunchi ware for the Japanese market, export early 18th century. This was sold by Shangri-La, our friends over there in the Netherlands, and it went for $320. And this is a fairly small dish, about 5 inches in diameter, but it's late Ming transitional period, beautifully done. And then onto this. This was sort of a good buy. This was a leaf form Arita dish, early 17th or early 18th century, with brown dressing on the rim, nice, like oak clusters or something like this, beautifully done, and went for just $261. Very good buy. That was a nice thing. It was an unusual form. And this one, I don't understand why it didn't bring more money. I scratched my head on this one. This is another 17th to early 18th century Japanese Arita conch shell. Conch shell formed dish, sauce dish, and it went for $125. Somebody who collects Japanese porcelain is very happy right now. It wasn't that long ago that dishes like this were selling upwards of $1,000. So somebody got a great buy on that. Japanese porcelain still is soft in areas. I'm seeing more and more interest in it, but there's still some great buying opportunities because down the road in the future, these earliest pieces are going to become very hard to find. And then onto this, the galloping horse dish. I love this. Just very nice, lots of nice negative space in the middle, and the galloping horses flying through the scene, some coming down above waves and below clouds. Beautifully done. Nice Chinese export dish. They call these kosamatsuki pieces, made between 1600 and 1640. Leading up to the transitional period, went for just $357, and that plate looked to be in very nice condition. And then over here to this cobalt ground Qianlong period 18th century teapot. A nice looking example with sort of Chinese amari decoration on it with this blue background. Here's a picture of the underside. Okay, there it is. All right, there's a good look at the paste and so forth. And what did it bring? $355. Right about sort of in the middle, not in the strongest price, but not the lowest. And then on to this. This was a very nice pair of Kangxi dishes, iron red. They had a couple of hairlines here and there, but nothing too deleterious. I couldn't see what was really wrong with them. They had the normal hairlines and frits and so forth. But if you want interested in getting a really nice pair of high-styled Kangxi dishes and not shell out a lot of money, boy, this was your chance. This was a good buy. They went for $232 for the pair. Which seemed very reasonable to me. Seems very, very reasonable. So because pairs are harder to come by, obviously. So whoever got that, good on you. That was a nice purchase. And then over here to this was Mark Wahlberg, artsonsunlink.net. He's a good seller in Pennsylvania. Had this. He had a number of good snuff bottles up last week, but I like these Famille Rose relief stamped examples. This one had a beautiful iron red dragon on it. 19th century, probably had a Qianlong mark on the bottom. It does. They're never right, those marks. But it did well. It brought $710. But it was a particularly nice little snuff bottle. It was a good shape, nice form to it. And then on to this, the incense burner, ghee-ware, 18th century or earlier, crackle celadon example. Nice looking foot on it and a nice lid. The lid, I suspect, is later, but it went for $736. He had it down as Ming. I think it was probably early Qing, but it's splitting hairs. It's for people that collect cracklewares, and this was a nice example. And I like the way the feet are applied, like with little button tabs going into the sides, beautifully shaped. Nice looking thing. And then over here to this, the Wan Li, or the Ming bowl rather, with the fu lions and lotus blossoms. Nice deep dark cobalt on it. Very, very good. And how big was this bowl? It was 11 centimeters, so about 4 inches in diameter. Sold for $1,550. Okay, there's a picture of the mark on the bottom, late Ming mark. All right, now over here to this, the Chinese watercolor. This is a late Qing watercolor, but sort of a classic style. And sometimes you find paintings like this done curiously, done even in this quality, on the insides of old tea boxes and tea canisters, things connected to tea. This one was mounted as a scroll, but I've seen these sectional sets and things in boxes that have painted under lids to them, often painted in this very similar style. This was a nice one, had some cracks and whatnot, and it bred for $517, which was fine. Nice looking. The colors still look good on it, though it had a couple of splits in the paper, but still a nice looking painting. And then over here, the Realgar snuff bottle. These are glass, very desirable among collectors because every one of them is unique and different because they create all these different patterns when they swirl in the colors between the yellow and the reds typically, sometimes a little bit of green. And this one looks like clouds down below and these swirling clouds at the top and just very, very interesting pieces. And this one did fine. It brought $712. Realgar bottles always do well. There are armies of people out there that collect Realgar. And this is just an example of it. All right, and now over here to this. Whoop. Sorry about the noise. Big truck going by. Oh, fire truck. All right, now on to this, the Hongwu period Ming Dynasty dish. They had it listed as Swatho for some reason. I don't know why. This was Joni's up in Canada did that, but this is clearly a Hongwu example. Very typical back, few crackles in it, nice looking foot rim on these. These were made mostly for export to the South Asian market, and it sold for $1,500. These are, if you ever get one, they tend to be quite heavy to hold, and the decoration is very quick, almost blurry looking. And they were made for export. And that was a nice one. And a lot of them are in the 12-inch range. For some reason, 11 and a half to 14 inches seems to be like the magical range for these. They rarely are any bigger. All right, now on to this, the Kangxi teapot here. I didn't enlarge it before I put this up. There it is. Nice looking little teapot. Good colors, classical form, and so forth. And this was out there. It closed on Sunday, last Sunday. It sold for $461. Nice looking little teapot. All right. And now over to a couple of things that are coming up this week that are going to be on eBay. One of them I wanted to mention was, incidentally, on eBay this week, there's a couple of, there's a transitional jar, and it looks very convincing. I forget the name of the seller, but he's only got a handful of maybe 20 or 30 feedbacks. It's a fake. So if you come across it, it's got a lid on it, it's sitting in grass in a field somewhere. It's no good, just to avoid. I meant to include it here, and I forgot it. All right, this, if you're looking for a very nice, elegant rosewood stand to hold a vase on it, you want to check this. This will be on we'll put it on the newsletter page this week. This is a very nicely done stand. I love the color of the wood. I'd oil it a little bit and go around it with some Q-tips. It's got a couple of little minor losses on the back, but overall it's a nicely done stand, and it deserves a good looking nice big bowl or a vase or something on it. It's already got 17 bids. It's up to $268. It's got 7 days to go, but a nice big stand. So if you have a nice vase to put on it, you might want to put the two together. All right, and then on to this. This is the sell of proto-cultures in Australia. They're not on eBay a lot, but when they do come on with Chinese stuff, it's usually pretty good. And he's got this up. This, I think, is so pretty. Very, very, very pretty Kangxi dish with flowers. Nice use of negative space. He's got it tipped. For some reason, he didn't display it straight. This should be at the bottom, but at any rate, beautifully done dish, beautifully done, and nice glaze on it, nice details. I don't see a lot of chipping and wear to the face of the plate at all. Looks to be in good shape. Here's another shot of it. There's another shot of it. As you can see, it's in good condition. The enamels all look quite good all down through here. You know, you're gonna spot a few minor things, but nothing significant on this. Here's the back of it. Very typical Kangxi dish. It's up to $180. Closes in 5 days. It closes next Wednesday. And how big is this thing? See if he makes it easy. 13 and a half inches is the charger. See how that does. Expect it to bring $1,200 to $1,800 somewhere in there, but very, very attractive looking dish. And another Kangxi plate is here. Is this a very classic form? This is a style if you've been looking at Kangxi pieces for a while. It has been damaged, as you can see. But if you're a collector and you enjoy this stuff and you're not of the mind that you can shell out, a few thousand for one of these, you might take a shot at this one, and then at some point down the road get it restored. It's 21 centimeters, so it's not huge, and I don't expect it'll go for more than $300 or $400. All right, we'll see. We'll see. It may if somebody's trying to pair it up with another one. They have already like it. Who knows? All right, and then you have this lovely little China trade export. They call these pin trays sometimes. A nice one here, and let's see. Oh, it's got ducks in it. There it is. All right, it's up to $104. Closes Sunday. Ought to bring a few hundred more by the time it's done. And then there's this very nice Wan Li period bowl with the geese in the center. It has a nice color blue to it. It's up to $150. It's got a few days to go. And then there's another Ming jar here. This is a classic. It's a form you've all seen before. This is a fairly nice one. And a rather fat little Fu Lion. He's got a look on his face. It looks like he's up to something. And here's a picture of the inside. You can see the looting line running around the interior where they join the upper and lower sections. Here's the foot rim. Somebody put some felts on there because the bottoms of Ming jars can be very scratchy, and they can ding up nice hardwood furniture pretty easily if you slide them around a little bit. All righty, and then over here to this. This is something that somebody inquired about, and I don't know what the deal is with these, but this seller has only 24 feedbacks. The description says that it was at a Christie's or Sotheby's sale or something like that. The problem is that the photographs are the actual photographs that were on the Christie's or the Sotheby's website. These are not his photos. And whenever somebody has something listed that is not their photos, I get very, very leery because there have been cases of people lifting photographs off of the major auction sites, posting them on eBay, selling the stuff, and then disappearing with the money. All right, so I don't know what the story is with this. This is not a Qinlong vase. It's later, but I don't know. If you've got this on your watch list, do some real due diligence. It closes tomorrow. All right, and then onto this little transitional period jar is up there. It's up to $710. It's got a few days to go, but it's a nice one, Femiver, and this is from a seller in Brooklyn, New York. All righty, and that's about it for the week. All right, a lot going on, things that we're doing with the site. There's a new idea that we have. We're playing around with it and talking to some people about developing it possibly. What's the best way to go about it? How are we going to pay for it? And some other things, because it's a whole other. We wanted at one point to see if we could add an auction platform to the Bidamount site, and the problem is that it's on a Genesis. It's called Genesis. It's a setup they have, but it is not accepting of some of the elements that we need to add. It's for a different type of platform, so we need something that'll work with what's known as a WooCommerce type of platform, and we have them, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to put it together and how to garner enough interest to make it worth the time to do it. All right, but we'll let you know more about it as we move along. It's going to be a month or two, but it's sort of a big process for us. All right, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it. We're going sailing this weekend, I believe. Sunday we're going sailing out of Rockport, and it'll be a nice day to go out, I think. And have a wonderful time, and get out there and buy something. All right, talk to you all next week. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.